I want to talk about recruiting. I want to talk about the recruiting rankings. I want to talk about some shakeups in recruiting. Because last night, Clemson picked up a top 100 and 4-star defensive tackle in Peyton Page. He chose Clemson after narrowing his list of finalists to, of course, Clemson, Tennessee, and North Carolina. And this is big because he is from Greensboro, North Carolina, which is another way of saying he didn't go to either of the Power 5 schools in North Carolina. So that means that with 14 commitments, Clemson has vaulted to number 4 in the 2021 247 Sports composite rankings. This after being ranked number 9 prior to Peyton Page's commitment at 6'4", 360 pounds. He slims down a little bit. We already understand what Brent Venables could do with an outstanding defensive line recruit, and you could pair him with guys like Brian Brzee, who was the top non-quarterback in the 247 Sports Composite in the 2020 class. Means that the rankings top 10 feature Ohio State at 1, with 5 stars like Travion Henderson and the number 1 offensive guard in the country in Donovan Jackson, who plays tackle at Houston Episcopal, which means he's opposite of Oklahoma commit Cullen Montgomery. Alabama has been coming on like gangbusters, pulling out 4 blue chippers on the offensive line. The number 2 player in the state of Georgia in Terrence Ferguson. The Brockermeyer twins, James and Tommy, Texas legacies, whose brother's on the team, go to Alabama. Of course, earlier this month, they pick up a 4-star weak side defensive end in Dallas Turner, and they picked up J.C. Latham, who's another 5-star offensive tackle in June. And this is 16 commitments for Alabama without a quarterback. Jalen Milroe is on deck. He's committed to Texas, remains committed to Texas, but he answers the phone when Nick Saban calls. Then you got Oregon at number 3 with 18 commitments that include guys like Troy Franklin, who earned 5-star composite ranking earlier this month. Ty Thompson, who showed out at Elite 11, probably was the biggest riser among Elite 11 quarterbacks and is a top 60 recruit. And they also get to bolster an already pretty great defense with guys like Keanu Williams, right? A 4-star in the composite out of Clovis, California. And they've also been able to recruit heavily in the Southeastern Conference region with guys like Jadarius Perkins, a cornerback out of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, and of course Christian Burkhalter, who is out of Spanish Fort in Alabama. They are making a dent and recruiting, as I say, like an SEC West team. And then knowing that Clemson's at number 4 and trails Oregon by less than a point in the rankings with 4 fewer commits, it's a matter of time before the rankings begin to look like they have looked for the last 5 years, which feature Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State inside the top 5. Of course, Tennessee is at number 5 with 23 commits in the boat. They will continue to slide as we can't take in that many more. LSU at number 6. Again, this is interesting because they don't have a composite 5-star right now. They had Rajon Davis. We had some re-rankings go on. He fell to a 4-star in the composite, even as he is the number 36th ranked player in the country, which means he's just outside that 5-star territory. And now with adding guys like Chris Hilton in July, adding guys like Greg Penn in July, adding guys like Naquan Brown in July, Keanu Coate in July, you can understand how all they're doing is continuing to build the kind of class that you would expect to be built by a defending national champion. We can go through this list of players for LSU, and we will get to 15 out of 16 4 stars. That's ridiculous, right? That means that you're basically a 3-star and a punter. And I'm not going to count the punter because it's not fair to count the punter. I wouldn't count the punter for anybody. Like, I don't count the punter for Ohio State, right? Even if they got 19 commits. Score is mostly based on 18 commits, right? Then at number 7, USC with 18 commitments in the boat, with 2 4-star quarterbacks in there, right? With Miller Moss and Jake Garcia. Now, what's interesting about USC is they ain't been good for 4 years. They have not actually done much of anything in the Pac-12 the last couple of years. And yet, I believe there's an argument for USC putting together perhaps the best pass scale crew in college football with Keaton Slovis, Brew McCoy, Kyle Ford, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Tyler Vaughns. Then you get to add your 2020 class to that. And then you get to add this group of kiddos, which again are led by the two quarterbacks, but also have Quadarius Davis out of Dallas Skyline committed to the class and is a top 100 247 sports composite recruit, which means that the letters at USC still do what so many letters claim to do, recruit themselves. The scary thing about USC is if they decide that they're going to be good and go win 10 games and make their Pac-12 championship game and go win it, everybody's going to be on board for them. They're going to be on board for them in the same way that everybody seems to be on board for Notre Dame, even as I only know one Notre Dame fan. One guy. And he's so rabid that he believes Kyle Hamilton is going to save them. Be like, all right, I'd be more worried about Tommy Rees as coordinator, and your man's Ian Book, who's looking real Jake Fromm-ish and not in the good way right now. But if SC could put it together with Graham Harrell as offensive coordinator, with Todd Orlando as defensive coordinator, there could be a reckoning in the south side of the Pac-12. Between them and Arizona State, you could see two top 10 teams. Because remember, Arizona State not only is returning to Jaden Davis as a sophomore, who was really great as a true freshman, but they've had two top wide receivers get drafted, right? First round, last 2 years. Remember, N'Keal Harry became the first wide receiver that Bill Belichick actually took in the first round. Okay? We'll see a lot of him this year. Catching passes from Cam Newton. And then throw in there what he has at defensive coordinator in a former NFL head coach, Marvin Lewis, who doesn't really have to recruit at all. He just got to call the defense, run the defense, coach the defense, let Antonio Pierce do the recruiting. Number 8, we got North Carolina, where Mac Brown has just decided, I'm going to do it like it's 1997, homie. I'm going to go get Dre, I'm going to go get Julius, and I'm going to see if we can't run this thing. Because I had to go and remind myself that Mac Brown was once the man at North Carolina, and the reason he got the job at Texas is because of what he could do at North Carolina. So after taking his ESPN hiatus, he wanted to get back into coaching, recharge, rejuvenated, ready to go. He asked his wife, where do you think we should go? She said, the only place I think we can go, only place I want to go, Chapel Hill. I said, cool, I can make it happen at Chapel Hill. Let me hire Phil Longo off of Lincoln Riley's, let's call it a observation, right? Let me hire Jay Bateman, the dude that I watched put the shackles on Lincoln Riley's offense in Norman as my defense coordinator. Then let me go get one of my best players of all time, and one of the greatest defensive backs of all time, and Dre Blatt, coach, corners. And watch me pull the 5-star, #1 cornerback in the country, Tony Grimes, in the 2021 class, who is expecting to reclassify for August because he found out in the state of Virginia they're not going to be able to play no football. So he said, no, I'm playing football. Watch. What a flex to be able to just finish out your credits in July on a whim. Then there's Michigan at number 9 with 20 commits. Harbaugh, you're going to get fired. No. I mean, every coach usually gets fired, right? Or unceremoniously pushed out the door, and we call you getting fired. Jim going to get fired. I don't see anything in here that says that Jim Harbaugh is going to be able to beat Ohio State. And then there's this assumption that beating Ohio State means you're going to win the national championship. Ask Clemson how that go. Just going to put that out there for you. And at $7.5 million, you're not getting paid to, get thrown under the bus and stumped mud-holed in and walk dry by Ohio State. You're getting paid to win the Big Ten championship, make college football playoff, win national championship. You're getting paid to do that thing that Lloyd Carr did back in the 90s. Nah, man. I get that they make a lot of money, but don't nobody like watching a lot of money go out to somebody that's giving them, a loss against a hated rival and no conference championships. Then there's Miami at 10. I have no ill will toward Miami. I do have some ill will toward Miami fans. I think Miami fans are fair weather. I think they're fickle. I think they don't travel. And I think they are antithetical to everything that is the you that I was raised with. That includes Ray Lewis and Ed Reed's you, and that includes Ken Dorsey and Willis McGahee's you. Edgerrin James is you. And yet when I run into Miami fans, some of the worst kind of people, man. You can't even have a discussion with these folks. And then you got Florida at 11, got Texas at 12, and finally you got 13, Oklahoma. Now, knowing that Lincoln Riley's going to get paid an average of $7.5 million, like he's taking a pay cut this year, but next year he's going to make a lot more of that money back. He's going to make like $8 million in one season. Let's just assume that one of the things you're also getting this raise for is to put together a top 5 recruiting class. Because I need to continue to point it out, Oklahoma has not had a top 5 247 sports composite recruiting class since 2010. And they were able to do it without a single composite 5-star, led by Tony Jefferson. Okay? How is it you can expect to compete with Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, LSU, if you're not going to have a recruiting class that matches those? You know, like Georgia, at the very least, has made the national title game. Remember? Because don't let this pandemic distract you from the fact that Mike Stoops ran a 3-man front with 2 men with their hand on the ground against a backfield that featured Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, DeAndre Swift, and a freshman quarterback. 17 points. Forget the square kick. Just run a real defense against a team that's built to run down your throat. Put 8 men in the box. Stack the gaps. No. Not Mike Stoops. This is why I think Alex Grinch is getting overpaid right now, man. Getting overpaid based on how bad it was when Mike Stoops was here. Not for what he has done. And yet, one of the other things we have to contend with is the guys that they are winning in recruiting battles are not the guys that LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, or Clemson seem to want. Now, you could say another man's trash. You know, you could say that. But what I saw was 63-28. And Justin Jefferson was considered another man's trash. Okay? That man didn't even have any stars until he got an offer from LSU. And then he went over Oklahoma's dead body for 14 catches, 227 yards, and 4 tutties. All right? Joe Burrow had 400 yards passing in the first half. LSU put up 692 yards rushing. Okay? And Oklahoma team that's used to putting up 45 a game put up 28. You needed Jalen Hurts to prove to you that he's the kind of good quarterback that you win because of, and he could not do it. Patrick Mahomes is the kind of guy you win because of. Everybody knows you're throwing the ball when you're down 8 in the second half against the San Francisco 49ers to feature the best defense you have seen all year, perhaps the best defense in the entire league. Everybody knows you're throwing the ball. Pat Mahomes still makes it happen. With Jalen Hurts, nah, man. And yet one of the things that Lincoln Riley would say that he prides himself on getting in his quarterbacks is accuracy. They got to be accurate with the ball. Let me tell you something. Jalen Hurts was the least accurate quarterback to ever start football games for Lincoln Riley as long as he's been an offensive coordinator. Okay? Shane Carden, more accurate than this dude. Okay? We can keep going down the list. Austin Kendall, more accurate than Jalen Hurts. Go watch the film. I did. And now we're banking on, in this 2021 class for Oklahoma, Caleb Williams being able to bring in Emeka Egbuka, being able to maybe, sort of, 2% chance bringing in JT to him all out. And we're banking on DeMarco Murray in his first year, landed a 5-star running back for the first time in 6 years, knowing that the last dude to do that was Cale Gundy, and he ain't been able to do it in the last 6 years. And yet we're supposed to think that DeMarco Murray can do something that Cale Gundy can't do on a recruiting trail when it was Cale Gundy who went and got DeMarco Murray from Bishop Gorman. I'm connecting these dots because nobody else is. You know? Like, what do you actually want from this team? Do you want a national championship? Is that what you want? Because it feels like I'm the only person that's putting my hands around the collars and raising them up going, go win it. I don't really care about your Big 12 championships anymore. I don't. We got more than a dozen of them. You know, we're putting them on toes. But you know what? In the Pioneer League, in the Pioneer Conference, at the FCS level, there is one team that destroys everybody else in the conference. Okay? San Diego runs roughshod over that league. San Diego gets the automatic bid to the FCS playoffs each year. And San Diego gets beat like they stole something in the playoffs every year. Why on earth is that Oklahoma? I thought there was only one. I thought this is the house that Bud, Barry, and Bob built. I thought this is the place where 47 Straight lives. My man Bill Hayes is about to write a column over here about the 42 games into Bud, Barry, Bob, Lincoln. And from him, I learned Bud Wilkinson won a national championship in the 42nd game. And yet we want to crown Lincoln Riley. Well, in the words of Denny Green, then you crown him. You crown him. Because I thought we were winning national championships. I thought that's what this was about. I got to watch a team in South Carolina where ain't no Tigers with a Tiger mascot in a year-round population of 17,000 people hold up 2 national championships the last 4 years. And I'm supposed to be excited about Lincoln Riley. It's a real difficult place to be in when you are just good enough to get beat down. Is there anything worse than being second? Yeah. Getting drummed so hard as number 4 that you dropped to number 7.